The autumn rain hammered against the classroom windows of PS 184 in Brooklyn, creating a rhythmic percussion that almost drowned out Emma Rodriguez's voice as she explained fractions to her third-grade students. At 23, she'd been teaching for only 2 years, but she loved every chaotic, exhausting moment of it. The children called her Miss Emma, and she knew each of their stories: who came from single-parent homes, who struggled with reading, who needed an extra sandwich at lunch. Miss Emma, I don't get it. Little Marcus, ironically named, she'd think later, raised his hand, his brow furrowed in concentration. Emma smiled, her dark eyes warm with patience. Let me show you another way. She knelt beside his desk, her modest navy dress spreading around her knees, and began drawing circles on his paper. Her long black hair, pulled into a simple ponytail, fell over her shoulder as she leaned in. The school bell rang, releasing a flood of children toward the door. Emma stood, brushing chalk dust from her hands. Remember, practice problems for tomorrow. And Marcus, you're going to get this, I promise. As the last child disappeared down the hallway, Emma began erasing the chalkboard, her mind already on the evening ahead. Tuesday meant helping her younger sister Sophia with college applications, then maybe catching up on grading while her mother cooked dinner in their small apartment in Sunset Park. It was a simple life, predictable and safe, exactly what she'd always wanted. Her phone buzzed. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. Mama, what's wrong? Emma could hear the tears before her mother spoke. Emma, you need to come home. Now. It's your father. The subway ride from Brooklyn to Sunset Park had never felt longer. Emma's hands trembled as she gripped the metal pole, her mind racing through possibilities. Heart attack? Accident? Her father, Miguel Rodriguez, worked construction. Dangerous work for a man of 56 with a bad back and worse habits. The habits. Oh God, the habits. Her stomach dropped as the worst possibility crystallized in her mind. The gambling. It had been quiet for months, almost a year. She'd let herself believe he'd finally stopped, that the promises this time had been real. Emma practically ran the 3 blocks from the subway station, her sensible flats splashing through puddles, her coat soaked through by the time she reached the modest brick building that had been home for her entire life. She took the stairs 2 at a time to the 3rd floor. The door was already open. Her mother, Rosa, sat on the worn couch, rosary beads clutched in her hands, her face aged a decade since this morning. Sophia, 19 and usually so vibrant, stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, and her father, Miguel, sat at the kitchen table, his head in his hands, while 2 men in expensive suits stood on either side of him like sentinels. But it was the 3rd man who commanded the room. He stood by the mantel, examining a family photo with casual interest, Emma's high school graduation picture. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair cut precisely, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her salary. His face was angular, handsome in a harsh way, with a strong jaw shadowed by subtle stubble, and eyes so dark they seemed black in the dim apartment light. When he turned to look at her, Emma felt her breath catch. This wasn't a debt collector. This was something far more dangerous. Emma, her father's voice cracked. I'm so sorry, mija. I'm so sorry. The man by the mantel set down the photo frame with careful precision. Miss Rodriguez, I'm Marcus Castellano. He didn't offer his hand. He didn't need to. The name alone told her everything. Everyone in New York knew the Castellano name, whispered it with a mixture of fear and respect. They controlled the waterfront, the unions, half the construction in the city. They were the reason her father had steady work, and apparently the reason he was now in trouble. What's going on? Emma's voice came out steadier than she felt. Marcus Castellano studied her with an intensity that made her want to step back, but she held her ground. His expression revealed nothing. No malice, no sympathy, just cold calculation. Your father owes my organization $375,000, he said simply, as if discussing the weather. He's been gambling at our establishments for 2 years. We've been patient, but patience has limits. The number hit Emma like a physical blow. $375,000. It was incomprehensible, impossible. Papa? She looked at her father, needing him to deny it, to say this was a mistake. Miguel couldn't meet her eyes. I thought I could win it back. I kept thinking the next hand, the next race. I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry. We don't have that kind of money, Emma said, turning back to Marcus. She was terrified, but beneath the fear, anger was rising. Anger at her father. At this situation, at this cold-eyed man standing in her home. We have nothing. You can see that. I can see that, Marcus agreed. His voice was deep, controlled, with a slight rasp that suggested he didn't waste words, which presents a problem. In my business, debts must be paid. It's a matter of principle. If I forgive your father's debt, I show weakness. Others would think they could do the same. So what? Emma's voice rose despite herself. You're here to threaten us? Hurt us? My father made mistakes, but my mother, my sister, they didn't do anything. Something flickered in Marcus's dark eyes. Surprise, perhaps, at her defiance. One of his men shifted, but Marcus raised a hand slightly, a minute gesture that froze the man in place. I'm not here to hurt anyone, Miss Rodriguez. I'm here to offer a solution. He moved closer, and Emma caught the scent of expensive cologne and something else. Leather, perhaps, or gun oil. He stopped about 3 feet away, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Your father can't pay his debt, but you can. Emma's blood ran cold. I'm a teacher. I make $38,000 a year. I couldn't pay you back in 10 lifetimes. I'm not asking for money. Marcus's gaze moved over her face, assessing. You're 23, educated from what I understand, well regarded in your community. You have no criminal record, no scandals. You're exactly what I need. I don't understand. A wife. The word hung in the air like a grenade. Emma actually laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. Excuse me, I need a wife, Marcus repeated, his tone unchanged, as if he was negotiating a business contract, which, she realized with growing horror, he was. I'm 35 years old. In my world, a man of my position without a family raises questions. It suggests instability, vulnerability. I have enemies who see my unmarried status as a weakness to exploit. He moved to the window, looking out at the rain-soaked street below. I've been pressured by the other families to marry, to show stability and commitment to our traditions. I need someone respectable, someone clean, someone who has no connections to our world who might bring complications. Emma's mind reeled. You want to marry me? To pay off my father's gambling debt? Consider it a business arrangement. We marry in a private ceremony. You move into my home, appear with me at necessary functions, play the role of my wife in public. In exchange, your father's debt is forgiven, and your family receives a monthly allowance of $10,000. This is insane, Emma whispered. You can't be serious. I assure you, I'm very serious. Marcus turned back to her. I've had my people research you, Miss Rodriguez. You're intelligent, composed, beautiful in a natural way that doesn't draw suspicious attention. You have a clean background and a reputation for integrity. You're perfect for my needs. I'm not for sale. Everyone has a price, Miss Rodriguez. The question is whether you value your family's safety and future over your romantic notions of marriage. His voice hardened slightly. Your father's debt won't disappear. If you refuse, I'll take what I'm owed. Your father works in construction on buildings my family controls. Accidents happen. Your sister, Sophia, isn't it, has been accepted to NYU. Student debt can be crippling. Your mother has health issues, I understand. Healthcare is expensive. He wasn't threatening, not directly. He was simply stating facts. But the message was clear. Emma looked at her father, still unable to meet her eyes. Her mother, crying silently. Sophia, pale with fear. Her family, her responsibility. How long? Her voice was barely audible. I beg your pardon? Emma raised her chin, meeting his dark gaze directly. How long would this arrangement last? Something that might have been approval flickered across Marcus's face. 2 years minimum. After that, if you wish to divorce, we can arrange it quietly. The debt will remain forgiven. And during these 2 years, what exactly would you expect from me? Discretion, loyalty, presence when required. You'll have your own quarters in my home. I'm not a monster, Miss Rodriguez. I'm not looking for a real wife, just the appearance of one. Emma's laugh was bitter. Just the appearance. And what about my life? My job? My students? You'll have to resign. A woman in my position doesn't work as a public school teacher, but you'll have resources to do anything else you want. Charitable work, education, whatever interests you, as long as it doesn't compromise my reputation. So I give up everything. My career, my independence, my future. You save your family, Marcus corrected, and you gain security, wealth, protection. Many women would consider that a fair trade. I'm not many women. No, Marcus said quietly. studying her with those unreadable eyes. I can see that. Which is exactly why you're the one I want. Emma closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 3 sets of desperate eyes on her back, her family, waiting for her to save them from the destruction her father had brought upon them. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. But since when had life been either? I need time to think, she said. You have until tomorrow evening. I'll return at 7 o'clock for your answer. Marcus pulled a card from his jacket pocket and placed it on the table. If you decide to accept, we'll begin arrangements immediately. The wedding would be in 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Emma's eyes flew open. I don't see the point in waiting. This is a business transaction, not a romance. He moved toward the door, his men following like shadows. He paused at the threshold, looking back at her. I understand this isn't what you wanted for your life, Miss Rodriguez, but I promise you this. I will honor our agreement. Your family will be protected and provided for. You will be treated with respect, and at the end of 2 years, if you choose to leave, you'll walk away with enough money to start whatever life you want. How generous, Emma said bitterly. It's fair, Marcus corrected. I don't cheat my business partners. Consider carefully, Miss Rodriguez. Tomorrow at 7. Then he was gone, taking his men and the oxygen in the room with him. The door closed with a soft click that sounded like a cell door locking. Emma stood frozen for a long moment before her father's sob broke through her paralysis. Emma, I'm so sorry, I never meant— Don't. Her voice was cold, a tone she'd never used with her father before. Don't you dare apologize. Do you understand what you've done? What you're asking me to do? You don't have to, Sophia said, finding her voice. Emma, you can't sacrifice yourself for his mistakes. If she doesn't, we're all at risk, Rosa said quietly, her rosary still clutched in her shaking hands. Men like that, they don't make empty threats. Emma looked at her mother, seeing the fear and resignation there. Rosa had grown up in the Bronx before it was gentrified, had seen what happened when people crossed the wrong families. I need air, Emma said abruptly. She grabbed her coat and fled the apartment, ignoring her mother's calls. The rain had softened to a drizzle. Emma walked without direction, her mind a chaos of emotions. Marriage, to a stranger, to a criminal, to a man who looked at her like a commodity, a solution to a problem. She found herself at the small park where she used to play as a child, sat on a wet bench beneath a dying oak tree. Her phone buzzed constantly. Texts from her mother, from Sophia, but she ignored them all. What choice did she have? Really? If she refused, her father would face consequences she couldn't bear to imagine. Her mother might lose the only home she'd ever known. Sophia's college dreams would evaporate under the weight of fear and debt. And for what? For Emma's pride? For a concept of love and marriage that might never happen anyway? She was 23, had never had a serious boyfriend because she'd been too focused on getting through college, too busy with her students, too protective of her heart. At least this way, her sacrifice meant something. Her family would be safe, comfortable. Sophia could finish school. Her mother could see doctors without choosing between medication and groceries. Emma pulled out the business card Marcus had left. Heavy stock, expensive. Simply his name and a phone number, embossed in black ink. No title, no company name. Men like Marcus Castellano didn't need to explain who they were. She thought about those dark eyes, that controlled voice, the way he'd commanded the room without raising his voice or making threats. He was dangerous, that much was obvious. But he'd also been strangely honest. This is business, not a romance. Maybe that was better. No false promises, no pretense of love. Just a transaction. Clean and clear. Her phone rang. Her mother. Mama. Emma answered, her voice tired. Where are you, mija? Come home. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Emma watched rain drip from the oak leaves, each drop catching light from the street lamp. We all know what I have to do. Emma, no, we'll find another way. There is no other way, you know that, I know that. Papa destroyed any other way when he gambled away more money than we'll see in our entire lives. Silence on the other end, broken only by her mother's quiet weeping. I'll do it, Emma said, the words tasting like ash. I'll marry him. But Mama, I need you to promise me something. Anything, baby. Anything. Promise me that Papa will never gamble again. Not a dollar, not a dime. Because I can't do this twice. If he destroys my sacrifice, if he wastes this chance I'm giving all of you, I will never forgive him. Never. I promise, Emma. I swear on the Virgin. He's done. We're done with all of it. Emma wasn't sure she believed it. But what choice did she have? I'm going to walk for a while longer. I'll be home soon. She hung up and sat in the rain, letting it soak through her coat, her hair, her skin, as if it could wash away the decision she'd just made. Tomorrow at 7, Marcus Castellano would return. Tomorrow at 7, she would agree to become his wife, not for love, not for romance, for debt, for family, for survival. Emma pulled out her phone and typed a text to her principal, requesting a meeting first thing in the morning. She'd have to resign. 2 weeks to tie up her life, to say goodbye to her students, to prepare for a future she'd never imagined. In 2 weeks, she would walk down an aisle to a man she didn't know, didn't love, maybe didn't even like. She would become Mrs. Marcus Castellano, wife to one of the most feared men in New York. The rain fell harder, and Emma didn't move. She sat beneath the oak tree and let herself cry, for the life she was leaving, for the dreams she was sacrificing, for the girl who'd believed that good things happened to good people if they just worked hard enough. That girl was gone now. In 2 weeks, someone else would take her place, someone who understood that in the real world sometimes you didn't get to choose your own fate. Sometimes it chose you, and sometimes you made the choice that saved everyone else, even if it destroyed who you thought you'd be. Emma stood finally, straightened her shoulders, and walked back toward home. Tomorrow at 7, she would give Marcus Castellano her answer. Tonight, she would allow herself this grief. Tomorrow, she would begin learning how to be the wife of a mafia boss. 2 weeks later, Long Island Estate. Emma stood before the full-length mirror in a bedroom that cost more than her family's entire apartment, staring at a stranger in white. The wedding dress was elegant, a simple silk sheath that fell to her ankles with delicate lace sleeves and a modest neckline. Nothing ostentatious, nothing that screamed bride. It was appropriate for what this was, a business transaction wrapped in ceremony. Her hands trembled as she smoothed the fabric over her hips. In 6 hours, she would be Mrs. Marcus Castellano. The past 2 weeks had moved with surreal speed. The morning after Marcus's visit, Emma had gone to her principal's office and resigned, citing urgent family matters. Mrs. Chen had been disappointed but understanding, hugging Emma and wishing her well. Saying goodbye to her students had been harder. Their confused faces when she told them Miss Emma wouldn't be coming back, little Marcus crying because he still didn't understand fractions, and who would help him now. Then had come the preparations orchestrated by Marcus's people. A woman named Donna, severe, efficient, somewhere in her 50s, had appeared at Emma's apartment with contracts, instructions, and a black credit card with Emma's name already embossed on it. "Mr. Castellano wants you properly outfitted," Donna had said, her tone leaving no room for argument. "You represent him now. Everything from this moment reflects on his reputation." Emma had been taken to boutiques in Manhattan where she'd never dared to enter. Boutiques without price tags because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Her modest wardrobe of teacher clothes was deemed entirely inadequate. By the end of the first week, her closet contained more clothing than she'd owned in her entire life. Elegant dresses, tailored suits, shoes that cost more than her monthly rent. Marcus himself had been conspicuously absent. She'd seen him only once, 4 days ago when he'd summoned her to his office in Midtown, a sleek high-rise with no company name on the directory, just a floor number that required a special key to access. His office had been exactly what she'd expected, minimalist, expensive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He'd been on the phone when she arrived, speaking in rapid Italian, his tone cold and commanding. He'd gestured for her to sit, finished his call, then looked at her with those unreadable dark eyes. "You look well," he'd said. "Donna says you've been cooperative. Did I have a choice?" Emma had replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice. A slight smile had touched his lips, the first expression she'd seen from him besides cold calculation. "No, but I appreciate cooperation nonetheless." He'd slid a folder across his desk. The prenuptial agreement. "Read it carefully. Sign it if you agree." The prenup had been straightforward and surprisingly generous. In exchange for 2 years of marriage, Emma would receive a monthly allowance of $15,000, more than Donna had mentioned. At the end of 2 years, should she choose to divorce, she would receive a one-time payment of $2 million, provided she maintained absolute discretion about Marcus's business affairs. If she violated confidentiality, the penalties were severe enough to make Emma's stomach turn. $2 million, she'd said quietly. "That's a lot of money to buy silence." "It's a lot of money to buy 2 years of your life," Marcus had corrected. "I believe in fair compensation, Miss Rodriguez. You're giving up your career. your freedom, your reputation. This ensures you can rebuild afterward if you choose to leave. If I choose to leave? Emma had looked up sharply. You mean if you let me leave? I'm not a jailer, Miss Rodriguez. When our agreement ends, you're free to go. I'll honor my word. He'd leaned back in his chair, studying her. You don't trust me. I don't know you. Fair enough. Trust takes time. For now, I'm asking you to trust the contract. Everything is legally binding. My attorney will answer any questions you have. Emma had signed. What else could she do? Now, staring at herself in the wedding dress, she wondered if she'd made a catastrophic mistake, but it was too late. Her family's debt was forgiven. Sophia was enrolled at NYU with all expenses paid. Her mother had already seen a cardiologist, top specialist in Manhattan, who'd adjusted her medications and scheduled a minor procedure that insurance had denied for years. The cost was Emma's freedom, and today she would pay it in full. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. Come in. Donna entered, her sharp eyes assessing Emma from head to toe. You look perfect. Exactly the image Mr. Castellano wants. Glad I meet expectations, Emma said dryly. Donna's expression softened almost imperceptibly. For what it's worth, you could have done worse. Mr. Castellano is demanding, but he's fair. He protects what's his. I'm not his, Emma said quietly. I'm just borrowed. You'll be his wife in an hour. In our world, that means something. Donna held out a small box. From Mr. Castellano. He wanted you to have it before the ceremony. Emma opened the box. Inside lay a delicate diamond necklace, a single stone, flawless and substantial on a platinum chain. It was beautiful and probably worth more than her father's debt. It belonged to his mother, Donna said quietly. She died when he was 12. He doesn't give it lightly. Emma's hands shook as she lifted the necklace. This changed something, made it more real, more personal. She wanted to refuse it, but Donna was already fastening it around her neck, the diamond settling just above her collarbone. There, Donna said, stepping back. Now you're ready. Your family is already downstairs. The ceremony begins in 45 minutes. After Donna left, Emma took one last look at herself. The stranger in the mirror looked elegant, composed, expensive. Nothing like the Brooklyn teacher who'd graded papers in coffee-stained sweaters. This was who she was now. This was who she had to become. Emma descended the grand staircase of the estate, each step taking her closer to the rest of her life. The house was massive, a sprawling mansion in the Hamptons surrounded by manicured grounds and serious-looking men in dark suits who were obviously security. This was where the ceremony would take place, private and controlled. Her mother and Sophia waited in the foyer. Rosa rushed forward, tears already streaming down her face. Mija, you look so beautiful, so beautiful. Sophia hugged her tight, whispering in her ear, You don't have to do this. We can run, right now. Emma pulled back, forcing a smile. Where would we run that he couldn't find us? It's okay, Sophie. I'm okay. You're the bravest person I know, Sophia said fiercely. And if he hurts you, I'll kill him myself. Despite everything, Emma laughed. Please don't commit murder at my wedding. Her father stood apart, looking older than his years, broken. Emma hadn't spoken to him since that night 2 weeks ago. She wasn't sure she could forgive him, wasn't sure she wanted to. Miguel approached hesitantly. Emma, I don't, Emma said quietly. Just don't. Not today. He nodded, tears in his eyes, and stepped back. Donna reappeared. It's time. The guests are seated. Emma followed her down a hallway toward the back of the house, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Through the windows she could see white chairs arranged in neat rows on the lawn, filled with people she didn't know. Men in expensive suits, women dripping with jewelry, all of them strangers from Marcus's world. The ceremony would be outside, beneath an elaborate floral arch overlooking the Sound. The October day was crisp and clear, unseasonably warm, as if even the weather was cooperating with Marcus's plans. Music began, classical, elegant, impersonal. This is it, Donna said. Your mother and sister will be seated. You'll walk alone. Mr. Castellano is already at the altar. Walk alone. No father to give her away because she couldn't stomach the hypocrisy of Miguel handing her over to pay for his sins. Better to walk alone, to make this choice, if it could be called a choice, on her own terms. Emma stepped through the French doors onto the lawn. All heads turned. She felt their eyes on her, assessing, judging, wondering who this nobody was that Marcus Castellano had chosen to marry. But she only saw him. Marcus stood beneath the floral arch in a black tuxedo that fit him like it was designed specifically for his body, which it probably was. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his strong jaw clean-shaven. He looked powerful, dangerous, and completely in control. His eyes locked onto hers, and Emma felt that same breathless sensation from their first meeting. He watched her approach with an intensity that made her feel both exposed and weirdly protected, as if she was the only person in the world who mattered in this moment. She forced herself to breathe, to keep walking, to not trip on the hem of her dress or betray the terror coursing through her veins. One step, then another, down the white runner toward the man who would become her husband. When she reached the arch, Marcus extended his hand. Emma hesitated for just a heartbeat before placing her hand in his. His grip was firm, warm, steadying. "You look beautiful," he murmured, so quietly only she could hear. It was the first compliment he'd ever given her, and she didn't know what to do with it. The officiant, a judge, Emma realized, someone who owed Marcus favors, began the ceremony. The words washed over her like water, meaningless and inevitable. She made her responses automatically, her voice steady even as her heart raced. Marcus's responses were equally steady, his deep voice carrying across the lawn with absolute certainty. He didn't stumble, didn't hesitate, as if this was just another business meeting. "The rings," the judge said. A man stepped forward, one of Marcus's inner circle, she assumed, holding a small velvet box. Marcus took out a ring, a platinum band with diamonds set into it, elegant and substantial. He lifted Emma's left hand, and for a moment his eyes met hers. Something flickered in those dark depths. Not love, certainly, but not complete indifference either. Recognition, perhaps. Acknowledgement of what they were both doing, what they were both sacrificing. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Marcus Castellano didn't leave details to chance. Emma took the second ring, a simple platinum band, masculine and understated. Her hands shook slightly as she reached for Marcus's hand. His fingers were long, strong, with calluses that suggested he didn't just give orders. He knew how to use his hands for violence if necessary. She slid the ring onto his finger, and he closed his hand briefly around hers, a gesture that might have looked affectionate to the watching crowd, but felt more like a seal on their contract. "By the power vested in me by the state of New York," the judge intoned, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Emma's breath caught. They hadn't discussed this part. Stupid, she should have realized. Marcus's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with surprising gentleness. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to. But where would that leave them? In front of all these people, his people, she couldn't humiliate him. His lips touched hers, soft and warm and brief. It was chaste, appropriate, nothing like what she'd imagined a wedding kiss would be. But it sent electricity through her anyway, made her realize with startling clarity that this was real. This man was her husband now. When he pulled back, something in his eyes had changed. Darker, more intense, almost possessive. The guests applauded. Marcus kept his hand on the small of Emma's back as they turned to face the crowd, presenting themselves as husband and wife. Emma forced a smile, playing her part, while her mind screamed that this was insane. All of this was insane. The reception was held inside the mansion, in a ballroom that probably hadn't been used in years but had been transformed into something out of a magazine spread. Crystal chandeliers, elaborate floral arrangements, tables set with china and crystal that Emma was afraid to touch. Marcus kept her close, his hand always on her, her back, her elbow, her waist, introducing her to an endless stream of people whose names she immediately forgot. Serious men who assessed her like a new acquisition. Women who smiled with their mouths but not their eyes, clearly wondering what was so special about this nobody from Brooklyn. "Smile," Marcus murmured in her ear as they moved through the crowd. "You're supposed to be happy." "I'm supposed to be a lot of things I'm not," Emma muttered back. She felt his chest move with what might have been a laugh. "Fair enough. Just try not to look like you're attending a funeral." "Aren't I?" She looked up at him. "The funeral of my old life?" His expression grew serious. "That's dramatic." "It's accurate." Before Marcus could respond, a man approached, older, probably in his 60s, with silver hair and eyes like ice chips. The crowd seemed to part for him automatically. "Marcus," the man said, his voice carrying weight and authority. Congratulations on your marriage. Thank you, Don Salvatore. Marcus's tone was respectful, but not subservient. Emma, this is Salvatore Vitale. He's a family friend. Emma recognized the name. Salvatore Vitale was the head of one of the 5 families that controlled organized crime in New York. If Marcus was powerful, this man was a king. Mrs. Castellano. Salvatore took her hand, raising it to his lips in an old-world gesture. You're even lovelier than described. Marcus is a fortunate man. Thank you, Emma managed, acutely aware that this man's goodwill might be the only thing keeping her alive if she ever crossed Marcus. I trust this marriage will bring stability to our endeavors, Salvatore continued, looking at Marcus. A man with a family has roots, commitments. It's good to see you finally settled. That was the goal, Marcus said smoothly. After Salvatore moved away, Emma leaned close to Marcus. Was that approval or a threat? Both, Marcus said quietly. In our world, they're usually the same thing. The reception continued for hours. Emma smiled until her face hurt, accepted congratulations from people who didn't care about her, and tried not to think about what came after. The dancing, the cake cutting, the endless photographs. All of it felt like a performance for an audience that knew the truth but pretended otherwise. Finally, as the sun began to set over the sound, Marcus led her away from the crowd. They walked through the mansion to a private wing, away from the noise and scrutiny. This is the master suite, Marcus said, opening a set of double doors. It's yours now. The room was enormous, larger than Emma's entire apartment had been. A massive bed dominated the space, draped in expensive linens. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the water. Everything was elegant, tasteful, and completely impersonal. Where's your room? Emma asked. The suite next door, connected through here. Marcus indicated a door she hadn't noticed. I can lock it from either side if you prefer privacy. Emma looked at him sharply. You said this was just for appearance. It is. I'm not a monster, Emma. I don't force women. He loosened his tie, and she caught a glimpse of his throat, the strong column of his neck. We're married legally, but that doesn't mean I won't demand anything you're not willing to give. How generous, Emma said, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice. Marcus's jaw tightened. I'm trying to be decent here. You bought me. Emma shot back, all the fear and anger from the past 2 weeks erupting. You bought me like a piece of property to solve your reputation problem, and now you want credit for not raping me on our wedding night? Forgive me if I don't fall over with gratitude. He moved fast, one moment across the room, the next standing inches from her, his dark eyes blazing with an emotion she'd never seen from him. Anger, yes, but something else underneath, something that looked almost like hurt. I didn't buy you, he said, his voice low and dangerous. Your father sold you. I gave you a choice. Some choice? My family's safety or my freedom? That's not a choice, that's extortion. Would you rather I'd taken your father's fingers, his life, your sister's future? Marcus leaned closer, and Emma refused to back away. I offered you a way out that saved everyone. If that makes me a monster, fine. But don't pretend you didn't know exactly what you were agreeing to. They stood there, breathing hard, the air between them electric with tension. Emma's heart pounded, and she realized with shock that she wasn't just angry. She was alive in a way she hadn't felt in 2 weeks. Fighting with him, standing up to him, made her feel less like a victim and more like herself. I hate this, she whispered. I hate what my life has become. Something in Marcus's expression shifted. The anger drained away, leaving something that looked almost like regret. I know. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair, disrupting the perfect style. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not for the arrangement. I needed this. Needed you. But I'm sorry it had to be this way. Emma sank onto the edge of the massive bed, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried her through the day evaporated, leaving her empty. What happens now? Now we live up to our agreement. Marcus moved to the window, looking out at the darkening water. We'll stay here tonight, then tomorrow we leave for our honeymoon. Emma's head snapped up. Honeymoon? You didn't mention a honeymoon. It's expected. A newly married couple doesn't stay in the city. It would raise questions. He turned to face her. I have a cabin upstate in the Adirondacks. Private. Secure. We'll spend a week there. Let the dust settle. Give my enemies time to accept the new reality. A week alone with you? You're my wife, Emma. People expect us to want time alone. He paused. Don't worry, the cabin has multiple bedrooms. I'll give you space. Emma laughed bitterly. Space in a cage is still a cage? Maybe. But it's a comfortable cage and it's temporary. Marcus moved toward the connecting door. Get some rest. We leave early tomorrow. Your things have already been packed. Of course they have. God forbid I have control over anything. He paused at the door, looking back at her. The light from the setting sun cast shadows across his face, highlighting the sharp angles, the hardness that came from years of violence and power. But his eyes held something that looked almost like loneliness. I don't expect you to like me, Emma. I don't expect forgiveness or gratitude. But I do expect you to honor our agreement. Play your part, and in 2 years, you'll be free, richer, protected, able to start fresh. That's more than most people get. Lucky me, Emma whispered. After he left, Emma sat alone in her elegant cage, still wearing her wedding dress, the diamond necklace, his mother's necklace, heavy around her throat. Through the window, she could see the last guests leaving the property, a convoy of expensive cars disappearing into the night. She was Mrs. Marcus Castellano now, wife to a mafia boss, trapped in a life she'd never wanted by circumstances beyond her control. Tomorrow she'd go with him to the mountains, a week alone with a man who terrified and confused her in equal measure, a man who'd bought her cooperation but couldn't buy her loyalty. But as Emma finally stood to remove the dress, to shed the costume of this bizarre day, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The stranger stared back at her, and for just a moment, Emma saw something new in her own eyes. Not defeat, not acceptance, determination. Marcus Castellano thought he'd acquired a convenient wife, a prop to play a role in his dangerous world. But Emma Rodriguez, Emma Castellano now, was nobody's prop. If she had to spend 2 years in this life, she'd survive it on her own terms. She'd play her part, yes, but she wouldn't disappear, wouldn't become just another possession in Marcus's collection. She'd find a way to be herself, even in this cage. And maybe, just maybe, she'd find a way to make Marcus Castellano regret underestimating the Brooklyn teacher he'd married. The drive from Long Island to the Adirondacks took nearly 6 hours, and Marcus drove the entire way himself. No driver, no bodyguards following in a second car, just the two of them in his black Range Rover, cutting through the autumn landscape as the city fell away behind them. Emma had expected awkward silence, but Marcus surprised her by playing music. Classical mostly, though occasionally jazz would filter through the speakers. He didn't try to make conversation, and she was grateful for that. After the performance of yesterday's wedding, she needed the quiet to process everything that had happened. She watched the scenery change as they drove north. The urban sprawl gave way to suburbs, then small towns, then increasingly dense forests painted in brilliant oranges, reds, and golds. It was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. She'd never been this far from the city, had never seen autumn like this. "You've never been upstate before?" Marcus asked, breaking the silence as he noticed her staring out the window. "No, we couldn't afford vacations, and when I was in college I worked summers to help with tuition." Emma glanced at him. "I'm guessing that's not a problem you've ever had." "Different problems," Marcus said quietly. "Money doesn't solve everything." Emma almost laughed. "Easy to say when you have it." "True." He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, just acknowledged the truth and fell silent again. They stopped once for gas at a small station surrounded by nothing but trees. Emma went inside to use the bathroom and buy coffee. When she returned, Marcus was leaning against the Range Rover, phone to his ear, his voice low and harsh as he spoke in Italian. His whole posture had changed, tense, coiled, dangerous. He saw her and ended the call abruptly. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Coffee?" She held out one of the cups she'd bought. Marcus took it, looking surprised. "Thank you." They drank in silence while the tank filled. Emma noticed how Marcus's eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, never still, always alert. Even here, miles from anywhere, he couldn't fully relax. "Are we in danger?" she asked quietly. "Always," he said simply, "but less here than in the city. That's why we came." The cabin appeared as they rounded a curve in the narrow mountain road. But calling it a cabin was like calling Marcus's mansion a house. It was a sprawling structure of wood and stone, built into the hillside overlooking a pristine lake that reflected the surrounding peaks like a mirror. "This is your idea of a cabin?" Emma breathed as Marcus pulled into the gravel drive. "It serves its purpose. Private, secure, no neighbors for 5 miles in any direction." He killed the engine and looked at her. "You can scream up here and nobody will hear you." Emma's blood ran cold until she saw the slight quirk of his lips. Was he actually joking? "That's not funny." "Little bit funny." Marcus said, and climbed out of the vehicle. The interior was exactly what Emma had come to expect from Marcus. Expensive, tasteful, masculine. Leather furniture, a massive stone fireplace, floor-to-ceiling windows that brought the forest inside. The kitchen was state-of-the-art stainless steel and granite. Everything was clean, maintained, ready for use despite the obvious isolation. "How often do you come here?" Emma asked, setting down her purse. "Not often enough. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year when I need to think." Marcus carried their bags up the stairs. "Master bedroom is at the end of the hall. 2 guest rooms on the left. Take whichever you prefer." Emma followed him up. The master bedroom was stunning. A huge bed facing windows that overlooked the lake. An ensuite bathroom with a soaking tub that could fit 3 people. But it was clearly Marcus's space, decorated in dark woods and deep blues. "I'll take a guest room," she said. If Marcus was disappointed, he didn't show it. He simply nodded and carried her bags to the room next door. Still beautiful, still luxurious, but smaller, more neutral. "There's food in the kitchen. I had someone stock it before we arrived. Make yourself at home." "This isn't my home," Emma said quietly. Marcus paused in the doorway. "For the next week it is. Try to relax, Emma. Nobody's watching here. Nobody's judging. You don't have to perform." After he left, Emma explored her room, then ventured into the bathroom to wash her face. She looked tired, she realized. Dark circles under her eyes from poor sleep. Mrs. Marcus Castellano stared back at her from the mirror, still a stranger. She changed into jeans and a sweater, her own clothes, not the expensive things Donna had bought her, and felt more like herself. If she was trapped here for a week, she might as well be comfortable. Downstairs, she found Marcus in the kitchen, surprisingly, cooking. He'd changed, too, into dark jeans and a charcoal Henley that showed off his powerful build. His sleeves were pushed up, revealing forearms marked with old scars and what looked like the edge of a tattoo. "You cook?" Emma asked, startled. "I survive," Marcus said, not looking up from the vegetables he was chopping with professional precision. "My mother taught me before she died. She said a man who can't feed himself is weak." Emma leaned against the counter, watching him work. "You never talk about her." "Not much to say. She died when I was 12. Cancer." His knife moved rhythmically, each cut perfect. "My father raised me after that. He taught me everything else. The business, the rules, how to survive in our world." "Is he still alive?" "No, he was killed when I was 23. Rival family, territorial dispute. They left him in the street like garbage." Marcus's voice remained steady, but Emma saw his knuckles whiten around the knife handle. "I spent 2 years hunting down everyone responsible. That's when I became what I am now." The casual way he spoke about murder should have terrified Emma, but instead she felt oddly sad. "You were 23. That's how old I am now." "I know." Marcus finally looked at her, his dark eyes unreadable. "You want to help or just watch?" Emma pushed off the counter. "What do you need?" They cooked together in surprisingly comfortable silence. Marcus made pasta from scratch. Actually from scratch, mixing flour and eggs with his hands, kneading the dough with practiced ease. Emma prepared a salad and garlic bread, following his terse instructions. It felt surreal, domestic, nothing like what she'd expected from this week. They ate at the large wooden table overlooking the lake as the sun set, painting the water gold and orange. Marcus poured wine, expensive of course, and they ate the simple meal in silence broken only by the crackling fire he'd built in the fireplace. "This is good," Emma admitted finally. "The pasta, it's really good. My mother's recipe." Marcus refilled her wineglass. "She was from Sicily. Cooking was sacred to her even when we didn't have much money." "You didn't have money?" Emma was surprised. "Not always. My father was a soldier when I was born, not a boss. We lived in a tiny apartment in Queens. I remember being hungry sometimes before he moved up the ranks." Marcus leaned back, wineglass in hand. "People think we're born into wealth. Some are, but most of us fight for every inch." Emma studied him in the firelight. He looked different here, less controlled, more human. The hard edges were still there, but softened somehow by the casual clothes, the domestic setting, the wine. "Why me?" she asked suddenly. "Really? You could have chosen anyone. Why a teacher from Brooklyn with no connections?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "That's exactly why. No connections means no complications. No family allegiances that might conflict with mine. No history in our world that could be used against either of us." He met her eyes. "And because when I had you investigated, Every single person said the same thing. Emma Rodriguez is good, honest, kind. I needed someone good, Emma. Someone who might actually survive this life without becoming corrupted by it. Assuming I don't become corrupted by it, Emma said quietly. You won't. You're stronger than you think. He stood, collecting the dishes. Get some rest. Tomorrow we can explore the lake if you want, or just stay in and read, whatever you prefer. Emma helped clean up, then retreated to her room. She tried to read but couldn't focus. Her mind kept replaying dinner, the unexpected intimacy of cooking together, the glimpses of the man beneath the mafia boss exterior. She was still awake at midnight when she heard footsteps in the hallway, then the sound of the back door opening. Curious, she went to her window and saw Marcus walking down toward the lake, a bottle in his hand. Emma should have stayed in her room, should have respected his privacy. Instead, she grabbed a blanket and followed. She found him sitting on the dock, feet dangling over the water, drinking directly from a bottle of whiskey. The moon was nearly full, reflecting off the still surface of the lake. Can't sleep either? She asked softly. Marcus didn't turn around. You should go back inside. Probably. But Emma sat down beside him anyway, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders against the October chill. Are you okay? Why wouldn't I be? Because you're sitting alone in the dark drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. That's usually a sign someone's not okay. Marcus laughed, a real laugh, rough and genuine. Fair point. He offered her the bottle. Want some? Emma hesitated, then took it. The whiskey burned going down, making her cough, but warmth spread through her chest. She handed it back. They sat in silence, passing the bottle back and forth, watching moonlight dance on the water. Emma felt the alcohol loosening something in her chest, dissolving the fear and anger she'd been carrying. I was supposed to marry someone else, Marcus said suddenly. 3 years ago. Her name was Isabella, daughter of a boss from New Jersey. It was arranged, like ours, but we'd known each other since we were kids. Actually liked each other. Emma's heart clenched unexpectedly. What happened? She was killed. Car bomb meant for her father, but she borrowed his car that day. Marcus took a long drink. I found out later it was my uncle who ordered the hit. My own blood trying to start a war between families so he could seize power in the chaos. Oh my God, Marcus. I killed him myself, Marcus continued, his voice flat. Put a gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger while he begged for mercy. Then I killed everyone who helped him. 13 people died because of what they did to Isabella. Emma should have been horrified. Should have run back to the cabin and locked herself in. Instead, she found herself asking, did you love her? I could have, given time. Marcus looked at her finally, his eyes reflecting moonlight. After she died, I swore I'd never put myself in that position again. Never care enough about someone that losing them could destroy me. That's why our arrangement is perfect. No feelings, no vulnerability, no weakness. That's a lonely way to live, Emma said softly. It's a safe way to live. He took another drink. In my world, Emma, love is a weapon. The people you care about become targets. I've seen men broken because their enemies found their weakness. A wife, a child, a lover. I won't be that man. Emma understood then, really understood, why Marcus had chosen her. Not just for appearance, not just for convenience. He'd chosen someone he thought he could never love, someone who would remain at a safe distance emotionally, even while playing the role of wife. She should have felt insulted. Instead, she felt sad for him. You can't control everything, she said. Feelings don't follow rules. I've managed for 12 years. Marcus stood, swaying slightly. The whiskey was affecting him more than he wanted to show. You should go inside, it's cold. So should you. I'll be fine. Marcus. Emma stood too, and maybe it was the whiskey or the moonlight or the sheer insanity of her situation. But she reached out and touched his arm. Come inside, please. He looked down at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Something shifted in his expression, the careful control cracking just slightly. Why do you care? I don't know, Emma admitted honestly. But I do. Come on. They walked back to the cabin together, Marcus's steps less steady than usual. Inside, he moved toward the stairs but stumbled. Emma caught him, or tried to. He was too heavy, too solid, and they ended up against the wall, his weight pressing her back. For a moment, they were frozen like that. Emma's heart pounded as she felt the heat of his body, smelled whiskey and pine and something uniquely him. Marcus's hands were braced on either side of her head, his face inches from hers, his dark eyes locked on her mouth. I should go, he said roughly but didn't move. Yes, Emma breathed. but didn't push him away. The tension between them was electric, dangerous. Emma saw the moment Marcus's control started to slip, saw desire flare in his eyes along with something darker, need, loneliness, years of denying himself any genuine connection. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her lower lip. "Tell me to stop." Emma's breath caught. She should tell him to stop, should remind him of their agreement, of the boundaries he'd promised to respect. But the words wouldn't come because she didn't want him to stop. She wanted, God help her, she wanted him to close the distance, to kiss her like he meant it, to make her feel something other than trapped and angry. Emma, her name was a warning, a plea, a question all at once. She answered by rising on her toes, eliminating the last few inches between them. Marcus made a sound low in his throat. Surrender or victory she couldn't tell, and then his mouth was on hers, and nothing was simple anymore. This wasn't like the chaste kiss at their wedding. This was fire and need and 3 weeks of tension exploding between them. Marcus kissed her like he was starving, his hand sliding into her hair, tilting her head back to deepen the kiss. Emma's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, giving as good as she got. He tasted like whiskey and danger, and Emma couldn't get enough. When his tongue traced her lower lip, she opened for him, and the kiss turned molten. Marcus's other hand gripped her hip, pulling her flush against him, and Emma felt exactly how much he wanted her. It should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel powerful. Marcus broke the kiss first, breathing hard, resting his forehead against hers. "This is a bad idea." "Terrible," Emma agreed, but her hands were still fisted in his shirt. "We agreed." "I know what we agreed." Emma looked up at him, saw her own confusion reflected in his dark eyes. "I don't know what this is, Marcus. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I don't want you to stop." Something in his expression cracked completely. "It'll hurt," he said roughly, his voice raw with honesty. "Letting yourself feel something real in this life. It always hurts, and I won't be able to stop it. Won't be able to protect you from everything, you understand that?" Emma realized he wasn't just talking about physical intimacy. He was talking about emotional vulnerability, about the danger of caring, about the risk they'd both be taking if they crossed this line. "I understand," she whispered. Marcus studied her face for a long moment, searching for doubt, for fear. Whatever he saw there must have satisfied him because he lifted her suddenly, her legs wrapping around his waist automatically as he carried her up the stairs. "My room or yours?" he asked against her mouth. "I don't care. Yours." The master bedroom was dark except for moonlight streaming through the windows. Marcus set Emma on the edge of his bed, then stepped back, giving her one last chance to change her mind. Instead, Emma reached for the hem of her sweater and pulled it over her head. Marcus's breath caught. He moved forward, hands sliding up her sides, mapping her skin with reverent touches that made her shiver. "You're sure? Are you always this talkative?" Emma asked, reaching for his shirt. He caught her wrists gently. "I need to hear you say it. Need to know you want this." Emma met his eyes, saw the vulnerability there beneath the desire. This powerful, dangerous man was giving her all the control, making sure she chose this freely. "I want this," she said clearly. "I want you." Marcus released her wrists and stepped back just long enough to pull his shirt over his head. Emma's breath caught at the sight of him. Broad shoulders, defined abs, and skin marked with scars that told stories of violence survived. There was a tattoo over his heart, a name in script. Isabella. Emma's chest tightened, but before she could think too hard about it, Marcus was kissing her again, lowering her back onto the bed, his weight settling over her in a way that felt right despite everything. His hands were everywhere, her hair, her face, her waist, touching her like she was precious, like she mattered. When he whispered her name against her skin, it sounded like a prayer and a curse all at once. "It'll hurt," he'd warned her on the dock, and Emma understood now what he meant. Not the physical act. That was gentle despite his rough edges. Marcus's touch careful and patient as he learned what made her gasp, what made her cling to him. The hurt came from the intimacy of it, from feeling the walls around her heart cracking, from realizing that this cold, dangerous man was treating her like she mattered, like she was more than a business arrangement. The hurt came from the terrifying possibility that she might actually start to care about him. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the moonlight, breathing hard, skin cooling in the night air. Marcus pulled a blanket over them, and Emma settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. That wasn't supposed to happen. Marcus said quietly. I know. It can't happen again. Okay, Emma said, but neither of them moved apart. I'm serious, Emma. This complicates things. Makes it messy. I heard you. She traced one of his scars, a raised line across his ribs. How did you get this one? Knife fight when I was 19. Kid from a rival crew thought he could take me. Marcus's hand stroked her hair absently. I was wrong about you. About what? I thought I could keep you at a distance, thought I could control this, keep it strictly business. His arm tightened around her. But you're under my skin now. That's dangerous for both of us. Emma lifted her head to look at him. So what do we do? I don't know. Marcus touched her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. But we figure it out in the morning. Right now, just stay. Emma settled back against him. And despite everything, despite the insanity of her situation, the danger, the uncertainty, she felt safe, protected, like maybe this forced marriage could become something neither of them had expected. She fell asleep to the sound of Marcus's heartbeat and the distant cry of an owl in the forest. When Emma woke, dawn was just breaking over the mountains, painting the lake in shades of pink and gold. Marcus's arm was still around her, his breathing deep and even in sleep. She studied his face, seeing how much younger he looked without the hard mask of control he wore when awake. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Emma carefully reached for it, trying not to wake Marcus. 3 missed calls from Donna, 2 texts from numbers she didn't recognize, then a final text that made her blood run cold. Tell your husband Victor Rossi sends his regards. The honeymoon is over. Time to come home and face reality. Attached was a photo, Emma's family, leaving their apartment building, unaware they were being watched and photographed. Marcus stirred, immediately alert despite having been asleep seconds before. What's wrong? Wordlessly, Emma handed him the phone. She watched his expression go from sleepy to deadly in an instant. He sat up, reading the message, his jaw tightening with barely controlled fury. Get dressed, he said, his voice cold and hard. The Mafia boss, not the man who'd held her last night. We're leaving, now. Marcus, my family, we'll be fine. I'll have them moved to a safe house within the hour. He was already reaching for his phone, making calls in rapid Italian, his commands sharp and precise. Emma scrambled out of bed, grabbing her clothes. Who's Victor Rossi? Marcus's expression turned even darker. Someone who should have stayed dead. He finished his call and looked at her, and for just a moment, she saw fear in his eyes. Not for himself, but for her. Get ready, Emma. The real world just came calling, and it's uglier than you can imagine. As Emma rushed to dress, she realized that the safety of the cabin, the unexpected intimacy of last night, it had all been an illusion. A brief respite before reality crashed back in. Marcus had warned her on the dock. In his world, the people you care about become targets. And now, because of one night of vulnerability, because they'd crossed the line from business arrangement to something real, Emma had become exactly that, a target. The drive back to the city was tense and silent. Marcus's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he made call after call in clipped Italian, organizing protection for Emma's family while she sat frozen beside him, staring at the threatening text message. They didn't return to the Long Island estate. Instead, Marcus brought her to a penthouse in Tribeca, 43rd floor, all steel and glass with security that rivaled Fort Knox. Donna met them at the door, her expression grim. Your family is secure. Safe house in Westchester. 4 guards. Your mother's medications have been transferred. Can I see them? Emma asked immediately. Not yet, Marcus said flatly. Too dangerous. Victor will be watching for contact. So I'm supposed to just hide here? Emma's voice rose. You're supposed to stay alive. Marcus disappeared into his office without another word, already on another call. Emma stood in the massive living room feeling utterly helpless. Donna guided her through the apartment, explaining security protocols. Bulletproof windows, panic buttons in every room, biometric locks on the elevator. It felt like a prison, however luxurious. Hours passed. Marcus remained locked in his office with various hard-looking men who assessed Emma with cold curiosity as they came and went. She paced, tried to read, couldn't settle. The intimacy of the cabin felt like a distant dream. Near midnight, she heard the elevator. Marcus stepped out, his white shirt splattered with blood, his knuckles raw and split. He looked exhausted and utterly remote. Are you hurt? Emma approached carefully. Not my blood. He moved past her toward his bedroom. Go to sleep. But Emma followed him to his bathroom where he stood washing blood from his hands. Without asking permission, she took one of his damaged hands and began cleaning it with a warm cloth. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked quietly. "Taking care of you." Emma focused on his knuckles. "Tell me what happened." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Victor hit one of our warehouses, killed 3 of my men, left a message in their blood. The king is dead." Emma's hands stilled. "He's trying to take over. He's trying to prove I'm weak. That marriage made me vulnerable." Marcus's voice was hollow. "Maybe he's right." "Stop." Emma cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. "You're not weak. You're human. That's different. In my world, it's the same thing." But he didn't pull away. "I can't afford to care, Emma. Caring gives my enemies weapons." "So what? You shut everyone out forever? That's not living, Marcus. That's just existing. It's surviving." "Bullshit." Emma's voice turned fierce. "You're scared. Not of Victor. You're scared of caring about someone. Scared that if you feel something real, losing it will destroy you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? You've built walls so high nobody can get in. You tell yourself it's protection, but really, you're just alone." Emma stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to love me, but stop pushing me away. Let me help. Give me a purpose besides sitting in a tower waiting to be rescued." "Help how?" Marcus asked warily. "However I can. I'm smart. I learn fast. Teach me to protect myself. Let me be your queen, not your pawn." Marcus studied her, conflict clear in his dark eyes. "If I do this, you follow my rules. You learn to shoot, to fight, to read people. You do exactly what I say when there's danger." "Agreed. And when this goes bad, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you." His hand cupped her jaw gently. "Tomorrow we start training. Tonight you sleep." "Marcus, don't argue. Use the master bedroom. I need to make calls." He stepped back. "War is coming, Emma. I need to be ready." Emma wanted to protest but saw the exhaustion in every line of his body. "We'll figure this out. Together." He nodded but didn't meet her eyes. "Get some sleep." As Emma settled into his bed, surrounded by his scent and the glittering city below, she realized the truth. She was falling for him. The dangerous man who'd married her for convenience was becoming someone she genuinely cared about. It was messy, complicated, and exactly what Marcus feared. But Emma was done pretending this was just business. Tomorrow she'd start proving she could be more than a liability. Tonight she'd let herself hope they could survive this together. In the other room, Marcus sat in darkness, Emma's words echoing in his mind. She'd seen through every defense he'd built. And the terrifying part? He'd let her. The drive back to the city was tense and silent. Marcus's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he made call after call in clipped Italian, organizing protection for Emma's family, while she sat frozen beside him, staring at the threatening text message. They didn't return to the Long Island estate. Instead, Marcus brought her to a penthouse in Tribeca, 43rd floor, all steel and glass with security that rivaled Fort Knox. Donna met them at the door, her expression grim. "Your family is secure. Safe house in Westchester, 4 guards. Your mother's medications have been transferred." "Can I see them?" Emma asked immediately. "Not yet," Marcus said flatly. "Too dangerous. Victor will be watching for contact." "So I'm supposed to just hide here?" Emma's voice rose. "You're supposed to stay alive." Marcus disappeared into his office without another word, already on another call. Emma stood in the massive living room, feeling utterly helpless. Donna guided her through the apartment, explaining security protocols, bulletproof windows, panic buttons in every room, biometric locks on the elevator. It felt like a prison, however luxurious. Hours passed. Marcus remained locked in his office with various hard-looking men who assessed Emma with cold curiosity as they came and went. She paced, tried to read, couldn't settle. The intimacy of the cabin felt like a distant dream. Near midnight, she heard the elevator. Marcus stepped out, his white shirt splattered with blood, his knuckles raw and split. He looked exhausted and utterly remote. "Are you hurt?" Emma approached carefully. "Not my blood." He moved past her toward his bedroom. "Go to sleep." But Emma followed him to his bathroom where he stood washing blood from his hands. Without asking permission, she took one of his damaged hands and began cleaning it with a warm cloth. "What are you doing?" Marcus asked quietly. "Taking care of you." Emma focused on his knuckles. "Tell me what happened." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Victor hit one of our warehouses. Killed 3 of my men. Left a message in their blood. The king is dead." Emma's hand stilled. "He's trying to take over. He's trying to prove I'm weak. That marriage made me vulnerable. Marcus's voice was hollow. Maybe he's right. Stop. Emma cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. You're not weak, you're human, that's different. In my world, it's the same thing. But he didn't pull away. I can't afford to care, Emma. Caring gives my enemies weapons. So what? You shut everyone out forever? That's not living, Marcus. That's just existing. It's surviving. Bullshit. Emma's voice turned fierce. You're scared, not of Victor. You're scared of caring about someone. Scared that if you feel something real, losing it will destroy you. Marcus's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? You've built walls so high nobody can get in. You tell yourself it's protection, but really you're just alone. Emma stepped closer. I'm not asking you to love me, but stop pushing me away. Let me help. Give me a purpose besides sitting in a tower waiting to be rescued. Help how? Marcus asked warily. However I can. I'm smart, I learn fast. Teach me to protect myself. Let me be your queen, not your pawn. Marcus studied her, conflict clear in his dark eyes. If I do this, you follow my rules. You learn to shoot, to fight, to read people. You do exactly what I say when there's danger. Agreed. And when this goes bad, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you. His hand cupped her jaw gently. Tomorrow we start training. Tonight you sleep. Marcus, don't argue. Use the master bedroom. I need to make calls. He stepped back. War is coming, Emma. I need to be ready. Emma wanted to protest but saw the exhaustion in every line of his body. We'll figure this out. Together. He nodded but didn't meet her eyes. Get some sleep. As Emma settled into his bed, surrounded by his scent and the glittering city below, she realized the truth. She was falling for him. The dangerous man who'd married her for convenience was becoming someone she genuinely cared about. It was messy, complicated, and exactly what Marcus feared. But Emma was done pretending this was just business. Tomorrow she'd start proving she could be more than a liability. Tonight she'd let herself hope they could survive this together. In the other room, Marcus sat in darkness, Emma's words echoing in his mind. She'd seen through every defense he'd built, and the terrifying part, he'd let her. 3 months later, winter in New York. Emma's hands no longer shook when she held a gun. Her aim was precise, her stance confident as she fired at the target in Marcus's private range. 3 shots, tight grouping, center mass. Better, said Rico, Marcus's head of security, grudging approval in his voice. You might actually survive now. Emma had spent 3 months transforming herself. Early mornings training with Rico, shooting, hand-to-hand combat, tactical awareness. Afternoons shadowing Donna, learning the organization's legitimate businesses, understanding how money moved through Marcus's empire. Evenings with Marcus when he wasn't handling Victor's escalating attacks, learning to read people, to spot threats, to think like someone who lived in shadows. She wasn't the scared Brooklyn teacher anymore. She was becoming something else entirely. Marcus watched from the observation room, his expression unreadable. Since the cabin, they'd maintained careful distance, sleeping in separate rooms, keeping interactions professional, but the tension between them was constant, electric, impossible to ignore. There's an event tonight, Marcus said as they left the range. Charity gala. Several family heads will attend. I need you there. Finally letting me out of the tower? Emma asked dryly. Victor's been quiet for 2 weeks. That worries me more than his attacks. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's planning something big. I need all my pieces in position. Your pieces? Emma stopped walking. Is that what I am? Marcus turned to face her, something dangerous flickering in his dark eyes. You wanted to be involved. This is what involvement looks like. The gala was at the plaza, glittering with New York's elite and its criminal underbelly dressed in tuxedos and designer gowns. Emma wore emerald silk that Marcus had chosen himself, his mother's diamond necklace at her throat. Stay close to me, Marcus murmured as they entered. His hand rested possessively on her lower back. And if anything feels wrong, you get to the car. No arguments. But Emma had learned to read rooms now, to spot the subtle tells Marcus had taught her. And something was definitely wrong. Too many unfamiliar faces. Security positioned strangely. A waiter who watched them too intently. Marcus, she said quietly. 3 o'clock. The waiter. His eyes flicked over. Good catch. There are others. Victor's people. His hand moved to his concealed weapon. He's here. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted in the darkness. Emma dropped instinctively, just as Rico had trained her, reaching for the small pistol strapped to her thigh beneath the gown. Marcus's body covered hers, protective and solid. "Stay down," he commanded, but Emma saw the shadow moving toward them, saw the glint of metal. "Behind you!" Marcus spun, firing twice. The attacker dropped. More muzzle flashes in the darkness. Screaming. Chaos. "The service exit," Emma said, remembering the floor plans Donna had made her memorize. "East side, through the kitchen." Marcus looked at her sharply, then nodded. "Lead." They moved through the panic, Emma navigating by memory and instinct. Marcus covered their backs, his shooting precise and lethal. They burst through the kitchen where more of Victor's men waited. The fight was brutal and fast. Marcus took down 2, but a third came at Emma. 3 months of training took over. She sidestepped, struck his throat, used his momentum to send him crashing into a steel counter. Her gun came up, steady, aimed at his head. "Emma, don't," Marcus said quietly. "You don't want that weight." But Emma had already lowered the weapon. "He's down, that's enough." They made it to the service exit where Rico waited with the car already running. As they sped away, sirens wailing in the distance, Marcus turned to Emma. "You saved my life," he said, something like wonder in his voice. "We saved each other." Emma met his eyes. "That's what partners do." Marcus pulled her close suddenly, kissing her hard and desperate. "When I thought you might get hurt." He stopped, his forehead against hers. "I can't lose you, Emma, I can't." "Then stop trying to." Emma kissed him back. "I'm not going anywhere." 2 weeks later, Victor Rossi's body was found in the Hudson. No one claimed responsibility, but everyone knew. The war was over. Emma stood in Marcus's penthouse watching snow fall over the city. His arms came around her from behind, familiar and warm. "The commission met today," he said quietly. "They've officially recognized you as my partner in the organization. Not just my wife, my equal." Emma turned in his arms. "And what do you recognize me as?" Marcus smiled. A real smile, rare and precious. "Everything I never knew I needed. My queen, my partner." He kissed her softly. "My love." "Took you long enough to figure that out?" Emma teased. "I'm a slow learner." His expression grew serious. "Our 2-year agreement ends in 18 months. You're free to leave if you want. I'll honor every term." Emma touched his face, this dangerous man who'd become her whole world. "I'm already free, Marcus. I choose to stay. I choose you. Even knowing what this life costs? Especially knowing that." Emma kissed him. "We face it together. No more walls. No more distance. Just us." Marcus held her as snow blanketed the city. 2 people who'd started as strangers bound by debt and ended as partners bound by something far stronger. Love forged in fire, tested by violence, and proven through surrender. Emma had come to this life as a sacrifice. She stayed as a queen who'd claimed her throne.